Hey, good morning. It's Andrea Goeglein. And this is the fourth meeting of the first quarter of 2024 of the Unicorn Challenge. And as I've said before, I have been hosting these off screen with the group and then just giving you the tips. And I want to tell you that as we move into tip 22, so today we're actually going to do 22 to 31. And I'll do them as quickly as possible, but they are really important ones. Number 22 is one we had a lot of discussion about in our group today. What is your high story? We all have a history. How you tell that history is so critical to your own ability to move forward and your success. So using certain skills, and there's actually tip 24, which will help you with tip 22. But in between, there's tip 23, and that's, are you in a hurry? Use questions to help yourself figure out, like, do I really have to rush? I use the example, I am a person who walks very fast. My natural walking pace is 4 miles an hour. That's how I walk around. That may seem extreme to some people, but it is. I was brought up in New York City. Everywhere I went, I walked. You always walked fast. So whether it was my natural gait or not, it's just who I am. And that hasn't changed much as I've progressed in life. However, I noticed that when I was starting my day and I was doing things around the house before I got out, that natural pace was looking like hurry. And I was creating an artificial sense of hurry. And one of the ways that I combated it was because I don't want to slow down. It is my natural pace. There was no reason for me to change that part. What was necessary was I now set alarms, not just for when I'm leaving, but for 20 minutes before, 15 minutes before. It's like, a first and second warning, so that I know I still have time, that I could do things, and I don't have to think that, because what was actually happening was I was always leaving early. I was doing everything in a rush, and now I'm actually using time more efficiently. So ask yourself, why are you so rushed about what you're doing? Then tip 24 is the way you explain your high story back in 22 so that you actually move forward. Explain the story of how you were fired, or how your boyfriend left you, or how the stupid boss or the stupid people, whatever it is, whatever your high story is, why it is you didn't get what you wanted. That's the high story. Do it without shame, blame, and rationalization. That is very critical for you, that you will begin to heal yourself of any past woe, no matter how traumatic, I will say, if you change the words you use in the story you tell around it. So when you tell the story, start doing it without shame, blame, or rationalization. That way, you're not making others the center of your woe, and you're not blaming yourself. Stuff happens. And that's a really critical how we talk to ourselves, and we're going to come back to this a million times, is how we live our life. Tip 25 is, how do you talk to yourself? I've mentioned this a lot of times, and it's so critical to mindset theory. The internal conversations that you're having are the ones that put you in the most pain most of the time. It's what you think about yourself and what you say to yourself that causes the greatest pain. We have many jokes about it where, like, if you were to look at a baby and say those things to the baby, like, really, would you actually say those things that you say about yourself, about other people, or about your best friend? start paying attention. That awareness will save you enormously. And then it goes very easily into 26 was, where do you judge yourself? I had an article come out today, and I had to admit, like, doing work like this, seeing myself on camera, how do I look? That gets harder and harder and harder. And I have no intentions on being Joan Rivers and looking like Joan Rivers. And so how do you deal with that? And all of that is an internal judgment. And so finding out how you talk to yourself, they seem like tiny things, but it's all these tiny things that tend to hold us back. And then day 27 is the questions that you ask yourself. Help identify where the real obstacles are. So in my Don't Die series, years ago, I came up with 4 main ones. What perspective do you need to change? That's a question. And it is a very interesting thing. That question will lead to beliefs, which happens to be, number 29 in the tips. But when you can ask your question, what am I noticing I keep teaching other people? Because generally that's something you have to learn. That's a question. Okay. When you're looking for new opportunities, one of the ones I love to ask myself and have my clients answer, when were you your happiest in a job? Like, what were you doing? Where were you located? What was the environment? Be as detailed as possible. Like, when I really liked this job, this is what I was doing. Tip 27, challenge yourself. Just because you have this high story, just because this was where you were the happiness, doesn't mean there can't be other opportunities and other ways of doing that. Challenge yourself to actually give yourself a little tension. I have had, one of my goals was to actually do a small evening meditation. When I tried instituting that a year ago, the meditations that I was doing, number one, they were way too long. And number two, they wanted me to sit up in a chair. And I was like wild, and it was also a guided meditation. So there were all these parts of it. But so what I did was just never do that. This week, I came upon different information. And again, it explained why you sit up to do this reflection. And then I realized that, what I had learned the last time was I don't want someone talking in my head right before bed. And so I set a timer for a certain amount of time. I sit up and I do it. And you know what? I'm being successful at it. But it was the stress of doing it the way I didn't want that helped me find a way. Create those situations for yourself. Shake things up for yourself. Then 29 is, what beliefs need to be identified. When you're finding the self-talk stuff, when you're seeing how you do the high stories, you're going to be facing beliefs that you hold that maybe you didn't realize were showing up in these instances. Identify them. Then day 30, just acknowledge that you are closer to your goals today than you were when you first started watching these videos, when you first downloaded the Unicorn Challenge, even though you never read one single page of it or saw one single video. You are closer because you'll start haunting yourself that, I should look at this. Even if you want to be critical of the process, even if you think it's the dumbest thing that someone my age is playing with unicorns, I don't care. You are actually closer to your goals. And then day 31, we're going to go back to the beginning, the dump list. The whole process that I put out, and why is it 60 days, and is really just to say, these things you probably have done a little bit here and a little bit there, all of your achievement life. Now's the time to have them in one place and remember that learning in life is this continual process of you assimilating the information from the past into the information of the present to create your future. So you'll notice from day 31 on, it's a lot of repeat. Welcome to life. You add the spice, you change up the flavor. The process of how you achieve really doesn't change a lot. It's what you're willing to do that changes with every experience that you have. So know that I will be running the online virtuals with groups to benefit Teach for America at the beginning of every quarter. I'll be offering them. Looked on LinkedIn, that's my main platform. And please join. It just is a donation of any amount to Teach for America to do it. I am Andrea Goeglein. You can find me in all the links below. But most of all, do the work because it works, and you'll be having it work for you. Thank you. Yay. Bye.